Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all well, and welcome to today's webinar. I can see we are just over 300 participants, which is a very good number. As we wait for more people to join, I would like to ask you to kindly subscribe to the PPB portal for this webinar so that you can be able to get CPD points. Karibuni sana as we gear up to the conference. Today we shall be talking about good public speaking manners. We shall be talking about how to make a good presentation as we gear to the conference. So karibuni sana. So would like to start at around 5 minutes past. So for the next few minutes, kindly if you can access the PPB portal to subscribe for your CPD points, that will be nice. Thank you very much. We'll start. We'll introduce our speaker shortly. Thank you. Dr. Niz, if you can say something before we start at 5 past.
Great, thank you very much, Sylvia. Good evening to everyone. I hope everyone is as excited about the conference as we are. We're really looking forward to seeing as many pharmacists as possible from the 10th to the 14th at the White Sands. It's going to be a really exciting conference. We have a lot of learning. The first 2 days will be dedicated to learning about pharmacoepidemiology, and we have wonderful panels on different aspects of pharmacy practice as their approach to as they apply to Kenyans. And then the conference proper starts on Wednesday. 3 days of really exciting speakers, panelists, keynote speeches. We have lots of opportunities to network. We have a speed networking event, a table networking event. We have a DAO cruise. We have games night. We have we have lots and lots of food and entertainment for everyone. We're really looking forward to seeing everybody there. This team has spent a lot of time trying to put together an exceptional conference, and we look forward to welcoming you and our international delegates. Thank you so much, Sylvia, and carry on.
Thank you, Dr. Niz. So I will go ahead and introduce our speaker for today. Gladys Muhunyo is our speaker today. She is an organizational development specialist, an award-winning speaker, public speaking trainer, and mentor to many. And she can be found at brandmanners.com for communication coaching. Today, she shall be telling us about how to prepare and do public presentations which are of high impact. Karibu sana, Gladys. We are really happy to have you here today.
Good evening, Prof. Confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. It is indeed a great pleasure and privilege to be with you this evening to talk about something that is important to all of us who have already prepared our lives for the world. I will be taking a few minutes of your time this evening to talk about making high impact presentations. I hope during this session, you will be preparing your high impact presentation. Some of the things that we do during this session will require you to write down, maybe note 1 or 2 points, and share with us on the chat so that we can know that learning has indeed taken place. If you are recording, do note that you can do the same exercise when you are done. Thinking about preparing presentations, I believe that by the time you and I are called upon to prepare a presentation, we have already taken time to do something that is already of impact to the world. What we write, what we think, what we have done is worthy of presenting to the world. What usually is the change is how we speak it. In a nutshell, we are experts in our fields of operation. Maybe we've published some books, some articles, and all we are being asked is the information that we have learned to present it to the world. Presentations take many forms. It could be a one-on-one presentation to your colleague. It could be a group presentations, but today we are looking at when you are doing it in a webinar or in a conference, physical or online. We're also looking at when you're using presentation software. I have used the Open Online Office, which can also be found on Google Docs. It's the same thing that you can use when you're using a presentation software like PowerPoint. Preparing an online presentation means that you already have the information you need, and we are crafting it such that we make it high impact. Making is creating. I do hope you are ready for the ride. If you are, please use the chat button and make sure that you can tell us when you are ready. There's an option to ask questions. Please post your questions so that at the question and answer session, we can respond to what you have requested. Let's go forward and find out exactly why we would want to make a presentation. When making a presentation, we are sharing from our knowledge of expertise, like I said earlier, and what we want to talk about has a potential of changing the world. Because we know it is proven, we know we have done research, we know we have published articles about it, but nobody would know about it unless you speak it. And the platform that you are given to speak it is usually a stage. Speaking it, therefore, means that it needs to have some impact to those you're giving to. Impact in this case, I mean a lasting impression of what you have actually done, what you've published, or what you've thought through and created. When you are on stage and everybody is silent, waiting to listen to you. I don't know about you, but many people get stage fright or get butterflies. One way of getting rid of that is preparing and making a high impact presentation so that you are confident. It is not rocket science, it's very simple. A normal presentation would be as easy as 3 points. A normal presentation would be as easy as 3 points. Point number 1, you tell people what you want to tell them, what you're going to tell them. That's like an outline. Point number 2, you tell them what you wanted to tell them. And point number 3, you summarize and tell them what you've told them. Now that's a normal presentation. It's usually standard and we do it all the time. On the high impact, however, we craft it such that it drives a point home. It leaves a lasting impression so that whoever listens to it or attempts to copy it doesn't, because it's authentically yours. Let's get going. I will be talking about an outline. An outline is basically the total story of your message in summary, meaning that what are you going to tell us in summary, in point forms, and then you conclude. So if you look at my high impact presentation today, the outline is what you are looking at. I'll be talking about this outline. I'll be talking about messaging, how to prepare and plan, a few do's and don'ts, because do's and don'ts are very many. I've picked a few and then conclude. So if we were to simplify it, the outline will be what you want to say. The message, preparation and planning do's and don'ts is the message of your preparation. That is what you tell people. And finally, the conclusion is saying what you've already said. Crafting an outline requires simplicity, words that people can resonate with. The audience that you're talking to can recall it very easily, and they don't have to craft through their head to remember what you said. Simplicity helps in an outline. I will go to the messaging now and design one particular type of message and an alternative message that you can use. It would be a good time now, if you are writing and crafting your high impact presentation, to get out a pen and paper and walk through the next 2 slides in detail so that you can see how to craft your presentation. The message. The story of your presentation can be crafted into one holistic article or device. And probably this would represent the entire presentation. Allow me to look at this 6 outline presentation. And why is it 6? You can look at the slides 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Your message is the meat or the information around your outline. If you're writing down your high impact presentation, what are the 6 steps around your outline? How will you open? How will you close? And what are the points? And this is what we want to go through. So if you have a subject in mind, try and follow through. Then at the end of this slide number 4, you will let us know whether you have some skeleton of your high impact presentation. The most important part of your message is this central point. This is the point of which you decide 2 things. Number 1, you decide, why are you making this presentation? Are you making this presentation to inform people? Are you making this presentation to entertain your audience? Are you making this presentation to persuade your audience? Or are you making this presentation to persuade them and transform them? When you decide why you're making this presentation, then you go to the second point of this thought. What do you want your audience to do, to have, to remember by the time they finish listening to you or looking at you and engaging with you? What's the one thing that you want your audience to remember? Let me check if there's anyone following, making the high impact presentation now. Could you please write for me on the chat, what is the one thing you would like your audience to remember when you are making your presentation? I am going to count down so that I see if there is anyone doing this. What's the one thing that you want your audience to remember when you're making a presentation? Of course, at that point in time, you've already decided you are not entertaining them, you're persuading them or influencing them and making sure they make. Thank you, Moses. The message. Could you tell me what the message is? Key point. What's the key point? What's the objective? What are the 3 points? Take home message. Yes. You're telling me the narrative. I wanted to know what the actual message is, the impact of the society. Thank you. Let me use Gladys Cherotich. The impact of the society. So we craft that statement. The generic medications are equivalent to the brand that Aisha, aim of the point. All right, let's take the impact of the society. When you have the theme message, the impact of the society, you make sure that it is a message that includes an action. It is a message that will allow people to remember. So if you were to use the impact of the society, you would say, this discovery will change your society, and you need it today. When you have a statement that is less than 10 words and it is repeated throughout your presentation, then it will definitely remain in the mind, will apply in the area. I don't know if you can see some arrows pointing between every point of the outline towards the central point. Confirm if you can see these arrows. It means that at every transitional point, you make reference to that central message. You make reference to the central message in a specific statement that has an action word that will allow people to go back to their places and repeat it. Two common phrases that have been used in the public speaking arena is, I have a dream. I'm sure when we say that statement, you know who has said it. Another statement is, there are three important things in life. One is education, two is education, and three is education. Do you remember who said those statements? Look it up when you have time. The theme and the impact statement must be so clear and centered in your message. It will be used as transition point on each and every point you have, and therefore you will not fail to make an impact by having the key central point. This key central point must also be what you want people to do when they finish listening to you and have a transition outside of the conference. You know, when you're given a stage and you're 10 presenters, you want to be the presenter that people look for after the event. Therefore, crafting this central statement, which should not be more than 10 words, will be very critical in anchoring your message of 6 points, 8 points, or 10 points. Point number one is telling us the main outline of your message. The main outline of your message would then include the introduction, the points, and the conclusion. As you can see, number 1 and 6 are near to each other because usually when you start with the main message, you also conclude with the outline to emphasize the carry home of the message. Both of them must anchor to the key message. In today's presentation, the key message is you will be making high impact presentations if you apply this messaging technique. Once you're done with the one message, you repeat the key message and transition to the first point. The first point or the first slide or the first picture, whichever you choose, must be bold, like the lion. Bold goes with confidence. Bold goes with credibility. Bold goes with positioning yourself as the true authority of the content that you're giving. Sometimes we don't need to say a lot of words, a picture can do. Or if you're on a physical stage, a gadget that you physically show people to help them visualize what you are saying. We dwell just a little bit on this message, maybe 1-2 minutes in the total slides. It would be the key point would be the first slide would be the one with the shortest time because it just makes a statement and then you go to the information. The second slide would be probably one or several, depending on the amount of time you have. We'll be talking about the amount of time you have. And we would also be looking at who your audience is. Can they understand your data, scientific data, or will you be explaining it such that non-scientific audience can understand it? Data is critical in any presentation. Research data, reference data must always say where you got the data from. Data should also be related to the people in the audience. If you say 10%, you'd probably say 1 out of 10 of you. That relates the 10%. If you want to say 1 out of 3, you can tell them, look at your neighbor on the left or right. One of you has this statistic. Relate the data to the audience that you're talking to. Raw data might not be as explained as possible, but because you're referencing it to the key point, every data that you relate to the key point can then be translated as high impact. As you create a message of data, point towards your key messaging so that the impact of the central point can be repeated. This central point will be repeated at every transition. That way, if they forget everything else in the entire presentation, they will remember the anchoring point. Then we go to the analysis. Analysis can be shown in graphics, in terms of data percentages, in terms of colored schemes so that people can relate the eye, but at the same time, analyzed statistics have impact, solutions, and information that will appear, not necessarily all of it on the slide so that it doesn't crowd it, it appear on your speaker's notes. Every time you're presenting, the data can be on the slide, but the information you're sharing on the analysis, majority of the information is on your speaker's notes. That creates authenticity because two different people analyzing the same data will present it in different ways. So what brings out authenticity? And that's what we said. Before you got on stage to speak about it, you're already someone who is an authority in that area. You have written or published information in that area. Therefore, your value proposition is shown forth in when you're explaining the analysis. Between the first point, the data, and the analysis, you would have finished the 50% of your message. That 50% of your message would ideally have driven the point home. That 50% of your message would ideally have covered enough content for somebody to prepare to ask questions. And now that I've reached 50% of my message of how to create high impact presentation, I hope you do have some questions. Why would an audience not ask questions? They would not ask questions, one, if they've understood everything, or two, if they've understood nothing. So I am hoping before we close the presentation, you will have some questions to ask or a confirmation that you've understood everything. What then do we do? When you are informing people or entertaining people, the slide for action is not necessary. But when you are persuading people and trying to influence them to change their behavior, the slide for action is important. So what is action? Action is as a result of your persuasion. What do you want people to do immediately during the conference? One, action. What action do you want the audience to do during the presentation? I'm asking this audience to write down questions. I'm asking this audience to take the points down and create a high impact presentation. Two, what do you want people to do 1 day after the presentation, 1 week after the presentation, or 1 month after the presentation? If you're a pharmaceutical company and asking them to order, you need to tell them where to order. Or you're asking them to call you for a presentation in their company, they need to know where to do that. Call for action follows information, sometimes information, but mostly persuasion and influence presentations. And high impact presentations must either be persuasive or must be those to influence a change of behavior. And finally, the sixth slide is like a conclusion slide summarizing what you felt that the people took home. So this summary of messaging I have prepared for you to see a one-stop place where you can actually benchmark your high impact presentation to see whether it has. The outline could be 8, 10, 11, any number of hexagonal size, but the message inside must anchor to a central point, and every transition, when you pause to transition from one slide to another, you either engage the audience or reference them to the central point, which is why you made the presentation in the first place. So this is one type of messaging. Allow me to go to a different type of messaging, which is usually referred to problem and solution impact type of slide messaging. A lot of times you have a story to tell. You've gone on the field, collected data, you've analyzed, but we cannot relate what you are doing in the field to the impact it will have in the world. Now, that type of presentation requires a continuous journey. It is not a summarized 3-point, 4-point. It is a chronological sequence of what you want to do. And maybe for the scientific one, you could have causes, maybe questions based on the research you took place, or what it is that you are trying to create, a new medicinal solution. What were the causes? What were the implications that led you to do this? Carry people along the journey. Carry people along the journey. When you bring people along the journey, they seem to understand your data. The causes and data are really raw. They have not been cooked, and that's why they appear in a different color. They've not been cooked such that we can understand immediately where the impact is. It's like going on a journey from Nairobi to Mombasa. I hope most of you are joining us from Kenya. From Nairobi to Mombasa, you don't see Mombasa when you're in Nairobi, but you actually see that you are headed in that direction. So the data cause implication must already have questions that took you there to find the data so that you can guide people in that. The question here is, when you give too much, numbers, it will lose people. So try and have messaging on slides that have pictures, and then your speaking notes are the ones that give the meat of the information that you have. Then you come to what really happened after you got this data information. What credible, authentic research can you refer to? Either your own, your organization's, or a referenced source. Any research that is talking about problem solution must arrive at a solution. Sometimes when I'm listening to a scientific audience, the solutions are so complex, and therefore adding benefits to the solutions brings the message home to those who are not really in your industry. Yes, bringing the message home also means pointing to the impact. Impact is, how will the society change? Remember, we started by saying you are set to change the world. You are set to bring a difference. All this that you have done, how will it impact the society you are? And you bring the message home, you land it so gently in Mombasa and straight out at the beach, because you started bringing the people on a journey, and then they arrive. And that's when you see you have had a high impact solution. So if I go back to the previous slide, many high impact solutions would have a really messaging that goes around a cylindrical common message, especially, or it will take you on a chronological journey that arrives at a solution or an impact that you want people to remember this presentation by. Now, you are ready with your message. How do we make it possible? I'm happy that PSK has provided a template, because crafting these colors and helping the flight transition is basically a PowerPoint template that is sent to you, and you're advised to use it so that you just do duplicate slide and you're able to put in the same font, makes it easy to read. The size of the font must be in a standard that everybody can see, above 24 points, and that makes the slide easier. If I could go back 2 slides, look at the font of the slides. Really, it is easy on the eye because it has followed through, and this is a template that is available for you from PSK. How many slides should you have in a presentation? If you have a 30-minute presentation, how many slides should you have? Any bold answer on the chat? If you have a 30-minute presentation, how many slides could you have? 6, 13, 10, 30. Oh, that shocked me. All right. The advice is presentations of less than 30 minutes, divide the time by half. If you have 10 minutes, have 5 slides. If you have 15 minutes, have 6 to 7 slides. If you have 30 minutes, have 15 slides. Beyond 15, it's crowded. It means you will not have time to engage the audience on each and every slide. Now, if you have presentations of more than 30 minutes, you cannot have too many slides, like 100. What you have after that is an activity to engage the audience. Help them type on the chat. Throw a poll to the audience. Put them in teamworks, group works. Let them do something. Activities, especially for adults, are good to help them remember. When you're preparing your slides and engaging your audience, even in activities, the bottom line is prepare to communicate. Say it, feel it, and show that you're actually feeling it as you're saying it. I mean, I cannot come here and start saying, maybe when you have a message, you can try and do a few slides. You don't feel it. And that's where we come in, as helping people to prepare their public speaking confidence, making sure that you, whatever you want to say, you feel it and you show it. That is the main thing. Prepare the slides, practice the slides, engage the audience. If it's more than 30 minutes, please include an activity, a role play, something that the audience can do and report back, group work, breakout rooms. There's all this available for you. Remember to say it, to feel it, and to show it. That's not part of the messaging, that's the process. On the other hand, your time management. When you practice doing the slides, how many minutes will you spend on every slide? Your speaking notes are what reduces the number of words on your slide so that you can refer to it. Refer to it. We are all multitaskers, and sometimes when you're preparing your slide, you will not remember everything to say if you don't write down your speaking notes. You can either use a gadget, a notebook, or even as notes. There are note pages in your presentation outline. Technical backup. I have my backup data on my phone in case Kenya Power decides to cut off my electricity. If you're on a physical conference, please have printed paper for your backup. Have something that you can always refer to. And remember to get feedback. Your feedback comes in a question and answer format so that you can understand what they're doing. So what do you do in the background? You script what you're going to do. You synchronize it with your messages, play it over to yourself. And if you're going for an international conference like the one you've been invited to by the PSK CEO, please remember to play it at least more than once so that you can iron out the cobwebs and you can synchronize your message so that you're crafting your words can come out exactly the way you meant it to come out, and the people can receive the message exactly as you wanted it received. So what do you not do and what do you do? Throughout this presentation, I've talked about preparing effectively, looking at your time plan and practicing. We've also talked about that you're the authority in your area, or you've researched an authority and you'd be able to verify it and summarize it. During the presentation, I have engaged you on the side. Those are the things you do. It would be very sad if you are put on an international speakers program and you fail to show up. It would be very sad that you write so much text on your screen that when the slide comes up, instead of looking at the audience, you are reading what on the text they can already be. It would be very sad to threaten. I hope you don't feel threatened by what I have said, or to multitask on stage, because when you give things your full authority, then people feel they are with you. Now, in between what you do and you don't do are three things that are really dependent on who you are as an individual. Are you a storyteller? Tell a story. Stories always bring the human aspect to it. But I wouldn't want to encourage anyone who is not a storyteller or who has not gone through the Brand Manner storytelling program to tell a story. It can really backfire on you. That is why it's in between the do's and the don'ts. Telling a story is an art in itself. It needs to, you have the main character, you prepare the plot, you have what it is that you want the story to tell. So telling a story has its own dynamics. And whether you do it or not depends on how confident you are. The second thing is asking a question. When you ask audience a question, you need to be able to know that you can control the audience. There is a cost that we call managing a difficult audience, especially in a physical scenario. I don't know whether this happens at PSK, but there are some places you go for a conference and then people start throwing chairs on one another. Sorry, that will not happen to you, but maybe when you're asking a question, be sure you can do crowd control. How long do you want people to answer this question? So that first of all, they feel heard and they feel that you have not ignored them. And finally, what I cannot tell you not to do or to do, it depends on you, is tell us how you feel. A presentation that opens out your vulnerability to the audience is one where you need to be able to control your emotions and to control the reaction of the audience to that emotion. Now, the most important thing in a high impact presentation is that telling a story, asking a question, and telling how you feel can flip it to high impact just like that. So getting your skill set in how to tell a story, how to ask a question, and how to tell how you feel in a presentation is a good thing to invest in personal development. What have I just said today? When you are creating a high impact presentation, you are already authentically qualified to do it. Therefore, your outline clarity is important. Whether you're going to craft it in a central key point or you're going to put an information for problem solving to impact, your outline clarity must be such that it is visible to the audience, 24 points and up, and they can be able to remember. If they forget everything else, they must remember the key message. The key message is a choice that creates your uniqueness and makes this presentation different from any other that you've ever done. We say in PowerPoint presentation and in any other presentations that you'd want to aid to the audience, never forget the 6 Ps. The 6 Ps are poor preparation and planning produces poor performance. So please remember to prepare and plan so that we can drop the other 4 Ps. Poor preparation and planning produces poor performance. But because we will not have poor preparation and we will not have poor planning, we will already have high impact presentation. So the preparation is in the details. How do you actually put together? And if you saw slide number 4, you can see there's a lot of detail going to do. Observe your do's and don'ts, be comfortable doing, and be comfortable avoiding the don'ts. That comes from experience. And I hope if you're going to do a presentation, you can create experience by the number of times that you do practice and do trial runs. And Hezron can attest to the number of times you practiced with him. You always prepare even if you know your content. Your conclusion statement, it's what does the icing on the cake. I have told you how to make a high impact presentation. I hope somebody was writing something down or asking questions so that you can ask questions. And this is my statement. You know what you want to speak because you have already thought about it. You've written about it. You're an expert in the field. But the words that you choose to show and to speak will determine whether you can speak at all. And that is the end of my presentation. We are now at Q&A.
Wow, very, very, very wonderful presentation. Thank you, Gladys, for taking us through this. I loved her diction, the way she articulates herself, her body language. You could actually tell she's trying to connect with us as an online audience. Very, very nice. Thank you so much, Gladys. We will go into question and answer. Please, if there are any questions, post them on the QA. You can upload Gladys as well on the chat as we go on. Any questions on the chat or on the Q&A? Let me just go quickly. I think some of these were responses that were coming when she was trying to engage you. If you have questions and questions that you'd like her to answer, kindly ask. We'll give you a few minutes for that. Let me just
Sylvia, while
yes.
people are waiting to ask the questions, maybe Hezron, if you can just inform members how they get their CPD points, because it's really not necessary to put their email address on the chat. So Hezron, maybe you can explain, or you've done so on the chat.
Okay. All right, thank you. So for those who've been following on the chat, we've just said that make sure you subscribe to the event on the PPB portal and search for the word presentation skills and public speaking, and you should be able to get this event. And it's not a must for you to send your email address on the chat. Once you registered for this event and attended, your attendance is already recorded. So there's no need for you to send your email address on the chat. Thank you.
Someone is asking, how long should a presentation take? I think that's context specific, and Gladys, you can speak to that.
If you're in control of the organizing the audience, you can determine before the meeting how long the presentation will take. What I'm saying is that if you allocate 10 minutes, try and have 5 slides so that you can have those slides go for the 10 minutes. If you have 30 minutes, allocate not more than 15 slides. If you have more than 30 minutes, allocate an opportunity to engage the audience over and above the 30 minutes. So the length of time the presentation will take will depend on your program, and what I'm guiding is what to do with the time allocated for that presentation.
Someone else is asking, how do you use speaking notes without distracting the audience?
Write them on a piece of paper. Every time you put a point, read a point on the audio or on your notes, you look up to pause. When you pause for 3 seconds, you can read another point. So the issue is to coordinate your pausing and reading. If you can have your reading notes at eye level, then you will not lose the engagement with the audience. Engaging the audience is the real power, high impact.
We have another question. Hi, I just wanted to ask, if we are presenting results, how would you suggest we can present them best on the slides and even explain them as the audience will need to know what exactly you're speaking about.
So summarize the results in a table or in a graphical format, and then explain the key. You know, usually you have a key of what is green, what is red. When you explain the key, then you have the summary of the results. If it's a physical meeting, print out the actual handouts of the results so that you can engage the audience on the physical document. If it's an online, you can also share on the chat a PDF of the actual results as your presentation has the summary. The summary is what you present on the screen. The actual results you show as notes, either to the audience or to an online audience. It's a PDF document that you share on chat.
Another question, there are many that are coming in. Someone wants you to comment on the art of using images and reducing words in the slides.
Yes, what you see and hear about, you remember more than what you read. But what you see and hear, and the words that are read to you about that image, you will remember much more. What you see, hear, and do something about, you will remember forever. So always engage your audience. So pictures should also be very simple, like a lion, an eagle. I mean, I use animals because they project a lot of information. If it's in terms of medicine, I can see the PRSK logo has, you know, scales, pictures that can give you the information that you'd like, but can show the audience the information they like, but you also have notes to help them. So yeah, pictures are good, just don't overuse them, not too many, again, on a slide, 1 or 2 at most, and then you explain in words. Number of words in a sentence, 6 maximum. If you have to go more than 6, please refer to your notes. And when you have a picture and text on the same slide, let them be on equal size. A lot of these come with practice. Back to you, Prof.
One other question, how do you defend yourself on an informative presentation if an audience asks you the question on the same topic, but you don't know the answer?
Tell them to see you after the text. That's why you do a course called Managing Difficult Audience. You cannot address everyone. And you know, there is a way that what I call journalists tell us. You tell them, that's a very good question, but let me tell you what the weather is today. Deflect. Deflect to what you can answer. Tell them to see you later. Send an email, because again, managing an audience can be quite daunting.
Specific techniques for managing anxiety besides
Absolutely. Absolutely. Number 1, box breathe. You are all medics. You know how to box breathe? Box breathe. Number 2, prepare efficiently. Number 3, practice, practice, practice. And then don't worry. Everything will be fine.
All right. Another one comes in, when collecting information from the audience that is physical, how much or range of token should one give, or is not advisable? I'm not very sure what that means.
Well, if you want to gift audience, be sure that you can be fair and just. I would say refrain from it. But if you want to gift audience, be sure that you're fair and just.
Is it wise to stand in one place as a presenter or walk around?
No. There's a topic we call body movement and gestures. You move to the center of the stage, move 1 point forward to make a point, move back to the center, move 1 step back to make a stage, move back to the center, move 1 step left, back to the center, 1 step right. If you stand at one place, unless you're only making 1 minute presentation, beyond that, learn how to coordinate your steps. We call it body movement and gestures. It's a session.
Should you engage the audience by asking questions mid-presentation or wait until you're done?
It really depends on what presentation is all about. Like this one, it's an active presentation of making. Therefore, you can engage during the session. most scientific presentations, you wait until you hear the impact, then you ask questions. So really, totally depends on the context of the presentation.
As an organizer, what is the polite way to tell the presenter that time is up, considering some presenters can really talk and talk?
Number one, you do a dry run with them and tell them how you're going to tell them time is up. There are timer cards that are available online. You can do an online time. You change the screen to green. When the minimum time is there, you change the screen to yellow. When there's 1 minute to go, and you change the screen to red. And the one note is so nice. You can agree as organizers that when this time is up in a physical context, you all stand up and applause, or you mute their mic. Please don't try that one on me, but you can mute their mic.
I think this last question is to the organizers. How much time we have allocated to each presentation? It is 10 to 15 minutes, so you should be able to clearly articulate the key message within the short time. A polite reminder that we don't really require you to send your emails on the chat, but Hezron has given a guide on how you can get your CPD points. I would like now to ask Rebecca, if you're online, to just give a vote of thanks to our presenter before I make the final remarks.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much.
Before we finish, I think a question has popped in. When do we get to know which day we are presenting? Okay, that's to us. We shall communicate. We shall communicate. Thank you. Rebecca, you can go ahead and appreciate our presenter.
Good evening, everyone. It's been really an exciting and a very informative talk. You know, we say that you live and learn, and today I've learned so much, even matters public speaking. So thank you, Gladys, for hosting this and for taking your time to just come and speak to us, PSK, and to all the members who are represented here. I'm sure everyone has picked one or two things, especially for me. I think my takeaway is I like and I think Prof has mentioned, I like your diction, the way you take your time to say the word, you carve the word before it comes out of your mouth. Most of us, I think in our field, we are very fast paced. So I think we'll take time, breathe in and just carve out our hearts. So we appreciate you and God bless you. We also want to acknowledge everyone who's taken their time to join this CME. We know there are a lot of competing priorities for most of us, but you took your time to join it. So your efforts are well appreciated. We also want to thank the organizing committee for setting this up and for joining and being part of this talk, and especially our chair, Dr. Aniz, for just coordinating all this and ensuring that is happening. Last, for our comms team, also for sending out the invites and coordinating everything. We appreciate you for the good work and the excellent work that you are doing. So thank you, and back to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Just so as we wind up, I'll take the next 5 minutes to just again give you a snapshot of how your oral presentations will be designed. I'm hoping that you already have the drafts with you, and some of you have already sent your presentations. I'll just again share what they are supposed to look like. And if you need a revision based on what our speaker has told us, then you can get in touch with us. So I'll quickly share the oral template. I hope you can be able to see it. And within these 12 slides, you should be able to share your material adequately. My computer is acting up. Maybe, yeah, it's now stopped working out. So this is basically what your slide deck looks like, and you should be able to fit in all your material. I'll stop there and again, just share what your, sorry, my laptop has decided to act up. I wonder what Gladys will say if your computer starts freezing and acting up in front of an audience. I will try and stop sharing that. This is quite embarrassing. And just share what the poster looks like. Gosh, my computer is frozen. I'm not sure what's going on there.
While Sylvia is trying to share the slide, I want to remind all those who are presenting at the conference that you should have received by now the slide deck if you are doing an oral presentation, and if you are doing a poster presentation, you should have received the template of the poster. If you haven't, please send an email to symposium@psk.or.ke. I repeat, symposium@psk.or.ke, and you will be sent the deck that you are required to have. Required to have already submitted. Sylvia will tell us what the deadline is. From my understanding, it was today. However, there might have been an extension. She will guide us. If you have been selected for an oral or a poster presentation and you are not able to make it for any reason, kindly send us an email to tell us the same so that we can replace you. If you have not registered on Oxford Abstracts, or you have not made payment for the conference, and I think the deadline for that is Friday. If you have not done that by Friday, then if you are an oral presenter, you will be removed as an oral presenter, and somebody who was placed on the poster presentation will then be upgraded to an oral presentation. Should you have any questions regarding the conference or regarding the details of poster and oral presentations, please reach out to the symposium email or the numbers that have been shared on various posters. Once we have the confirmation of all the people who are presenting, they will be placed onto the timetable, which will be available on Oxford Abstracts, and you will be able to see what day and what time you are presenting. We estimate that should be done by the end of next week. Back to you, Sylvia.
I'm really sorry about what's happening. I think we can bring that to a close. We shall share once again the templates for the oral and poster presentations for those who will be attending the conference. This recording will also be available on the website. Sorry, my computer just froze and I could not do anything about displaying that, but we can have this recorded webinar on the website. Thank you very much. Anis, if you're still there, you can kindly close out the meeting.
Thank you, Sylvia. I see some hands up. Hezron, are they able to unmute and speak, or is that not allowed?
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know.
If those who have raised their hands, if you want, please please ask. I'll give you a minute. Otherwise, we will. So there are some few questions which were not answered. I will read them out, and then the presenter can maybe take a few minutes to answer them before we close up. How do you manage a tired or an uninterested audience? And then this one is for Hez. Can we get the video recording? The third one is, will there be an option to attend the conference virtually, at least the panel sessions? The answer is no. This is a fully in-person conference. There is no virtual presentations. And please clarify that on the timeline for submission of the slides, you are already late, but we will extend till Friday to get all the presentations in. So Hezron, you can take the question about the video recording, and then the presenter can take the question of how do you manage a tired and uninterested audience.
Okay, maybe the presenter could start or I start. Okay.
Yes, a tired on an interested audience. I would wonder why they were there in the first place. I would do an activity, a role play, group discussion, or an activity to do something for a few minutes so that they are able to talk to one another. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. And for the recording, we're going to share it on our YouTube channel, and then we'll share the link with all of you. So kindly be on the lookout for that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
the deadline, sorry, someone has asked something about deadline for sending presentations. That's both oral and poster.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you, the presenter. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you still have more questions, please email us. If it's regarding the conference, you can email us at symposium@psk.or.ke. If it's to do with PSK, you have the PSK email addresses. Please feel free to reach out, and have a good rest of the full moon night, and don't change yourself to any shape. And we shall see you at the conference. Good night.